Hi, I'm Indy, and this is another exciting episode of Out of the Trenches, where I sit here in the chair of wisdom and answer your questions about the First World War. Vashon Koog writes, Dear Indy, I was wondering if you could address the use of cocaine during the war. As I understand it, the drug was quite popular before the war in London's upper and lower classes, but the use of cocaine by soldiers forced the British government to make the drug illegal. There were forced march tablets that the British used that contained cocaine, and it was made illegal in Britain in 1920, right, after the war. There were a bunch of fairly high-profile coke scandals in Britain during the late teens, including a big budding star, Billy Carlton, who, they say, OD'd on coke after the victory ball at the Albert Hall 2 weeks after the war ended. There's not much doubt that there was significant cocaine use in the British Army, but I suspect that the huge majority of that was as an anesthetic, particularly a dental anesthetic. I mean, it was used as a dental anesthetic for decades. Digging around on the internet, I found this from the Great War Forum in 2009. In 1916, a Canadian major was worried about the widespread use among Canadian troops. He figured he had about 40 coke addicts, in his command alone, and so he did a little detective work to trace the suppliers in the UK. In a sting operation, a man and a woman were trapped and charged with selling a powder to members of His Majesty's forces with the intent to make them less able to perform their duties. Given the vague nature of the actual law on the subject, a smart lawyer today could probably have gotten the charges thrown out. But the pair got 6 months hard labor. Immediately afterwards, the pharmacists, Savoy and Moore, who made up the kits sold in Harrods and other department stores, were fined for selling cocaine and morphine to one individual without an introduction and without obtaining his address, which is a very interesting charge. Harrods was also fined on the same charge. Now this was fairly effective in ending over-the-counter cocaine sales. There's also the Dutch Royal Cocaine Factory in the Netherlands. I couldn't find much in English about that. Maybe some of our Dutch viewers can enlighten us. Please write in if you know more about the Royal Dutch Cocaine Factory during the war. I love that name. That's a good name for a band. Silesian Piper writes, Are you familiar with the so-called Attack of the Dead or zombie attack, which took part at the siege of Auschwitz by Germans on Russian garrison? I've heard that a half-dead bunch of 60 Russians forced 7,000 Germans to withdraw from the siege, who then ran in panic, seeing the massacred and gassed faces of the defenders. Is this story true? It's so extraordinary that it's hard to believe. I've no idea, to be honest. The story was published in 1939 in the Russian military press. It seems likely that soldiers that suffered gas attacks could look like zombies, though. I mean, coughing blood, wide open, tearing eyes, screaming and struggling to even walk straight ahead. And soldiers pumped up on adrenaline that have to storm into the enemy were often sensitive to panic. That's happened, all throughout military history. But it might take a little more to rout 7,000 soldiers. But, who knows? German archives were mostly lost in the Second World War. Okay, that's all for today. If you want to find out more about how gas was first used on the Eastern Front, you can click here to check out our special about that. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.